How long is your longest training session when you're preparing for a Spartan Ultra Marathon? This is a good question. Hey, what's up you guys, and welcome back to the Q&A where you submit your questions via Instagram or on YouTube around anything health and wellness. Today's question comes from Spencer via Instagram. What is your longest training session when preparing for a Spartan Ultra Marathon? Okay, so before getting into the answer, let's talk a little bit about what a Spartan Ultra Marathon is and how it differentiates from different types of ultra marathons or regular marathons. The thing with Spartan Ultra Marathons is that it's not only 31 miles of running, but they incorporate 60 obstacles within the race. Some of the other factors that you need to take into consideration is altitude, elevation gain, how much vert you're going up, and also terrain. What are you running on? These are all different factors that I put into play as I get ready for specific races. So for an example, I have an ultra marathon coming up in May over in Montana, which I know is going to be very hilly, not too much altitude because I'm already at 5,000 feet here at Denver, so I'm not too concerned there, but more so just focusing on going up and down on repeat. Typically these races can take anywhere between 8 to 12 hours. And again, it just depends on the factors that I just mentioned before. So when it comes to the type of training that I do that's specific to Spartan Ultra Marathons, it's really heavily focused on aerobic foundations, so that long endurance, low intensity. I may have some high intensity moments, but they're very minimal when it comes to those longer workouts. So for me, I found it best that I have my longest sessions be around 4 hours as I prepare for these specific races. And what I found best that works for me, because I am here in Denver, is I'll find a mountain that I can create a 10 to 12 mile loop, power hike up, usually about a 17 or 19 minute per mile pace on the hike up, and then I run down. So this is really great because I can open up my speed, I can work on my downhill technique, but it also shakes out the legs and promotes blood flow from all that uphill power hiking. The way that the Spartan Ultra Marathons are set up is that they typically have a 17-mile loop for the first one, and then the second one is roughly 14 miles. So you need to have that mental aspect of doing the same thing over, and that's why I like to have a mountain route where I do most of it in that first route, come back to the car, have some nutrition, which I'll talk about here in a second, but then go back up so I get in that mental rhythm of doing the same thing over. For these sessions that do last anywhere between 3-4 hours, it's really about time on feet, so focused on time versus distance and pace, where like a track workout, you're focused on 400, 800 meter, 1 mile repeats at a certain speed within a certain time. This is just focused on staying on your feet for a specific duration of time. So in this instance, for my longest sessions, that is 4 hours. How much distance and elevation gain can I cover within that 4 hour time window? The other thing that's really important about these longer sessions is the nutrition piece. So I like to use these longer sessions to test out how I fuel my body before, during, and after. So let's talk a little bit about before. So one of the things that works really well for me are either oatmeal or a smoothie. Right now I'm on a smoothie kick, so I typically have some milk, and that's whole milk, 2 bananas, a little bit of protein, some frozen blueberries, and some spinach, and I'm off to the races. It's about 800 calories with about 100 grams of carbs. I don't really know the sugar aspect, but more focus on the carbs. And I feel like this is one of my best meals that I like to have before longer training sessions. Now I feel like this is where a lot of the testing is going to come into play, because there are certain fuels or brands that you could use that may not sit well with your stomach, and you could experience bloating. You definitely want to experience that during training and not during a race and completely ruin your competition. But what I found works best for me is I like this company called Endurelite for a carb drink that I'll typically take about 30 grams of carbs per hour. And I like to take 1 GU an hour that has sodium, carbs, sugar, and a little bit of caffeine to give me a little bit of an extra kick. Now, while this fuel may not carry me throughout the entire 4 hours, as I mentioned, I do 2 loops when it comes to these 4 hour sessions. So when I get back to the car, I like to have a fruit. I find what works best for me is an apple, just because it really quenches my thirst and kind of just shakes things up a little bit from a taste standpoint. I also like to give myself a treat on something I typically don't eat, but am allowing because I am burning so much fuel. And right now that's Pop-Tarts for me. So after that 10-12 mile loop, I'll have an apple, some Pop-Tarts, maybe some chips, refill my water bottles with the carb drink, and go back for my second loop. Now when it comes to after the training session, eating is super crucial, because if you don't, I know what happens to me, and that is I completely crash out, and I could sleep anywhere between 12 to 14 hours, which is very unlike me. So I try to find a meal meal that is heavy in carbs and protein. I don't really focus too much on the fat aspect, but I do like to get a good amount of carbs and a good amount of protein because my body is in that recovery stage. And then the last piece that I think a lot of people overlook is weighing yourself before and after those sessions. So let's say, for example, you're 150 pounds and you come back after that 4-hour session and you're down to 146 or 145. That's not good. You've lost a ton of water weight that you want to replenish right away. So you want to make sure that you're putting that back on with any type of water that has either carbs or electrolytes. I like to use electrolytes because I did sweat so much throughout that last training session. So there you have it. I feel like that was kind of a long-winded answer about like my longest training session, which is, it depends on the type of race that I do, what type of training I do to prepare for that, and then how do I fuel my body for those training sessions. I hope you found value out of this video. If you have any questions that you'd like for me to answer, please leave them in the comments section below. I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.